Welcome, everyone. My name is Paul Gigliotti, the CEO of the California MBA, and I'm here as your host today on Connect, our podcast that brings the movers, shakers, and true innovators in our industry directly to you. Now, before we get started with our next guest, who I cannot wait to have a conversation with, I want to first and foremost thank our 2026 President Council sponsors, AmeriHome, Consolidated Analytics, Loan DNA, Funding Shield, CMG Financial, Guild Mortgage, Rocket Mortgage, Wiener, Brodsky, and Kinder, and Western Alliance Bank. Without these partners, we would not be able to do the amazing work that it is that we do at the California MBA. So thank you very much. And now on to our guest. I'm here with Sasha of Xactus, CMO at Xactus. Sasha, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm so glad to be here, and that's quite a distinguished list of sponsors to have to follow up on.
I know, right? So I'm going to do a real quick intro for those that don't know about Xactus, and that's probably not too many, especially since you've joined the organization.
Okay.
Xactus has been driving innovation in mortgage verification in its platform, Xactus 360, which we'll hear more about, which is an intelligence verification platform that shifts the industry from manual, rigid workflows to dynamic, data-driven solutions through offering through to its strategic partnerships. With its strategic partnerships, uh, such as Plaid and FICO. So we're going to dive in. We've got a whole slew of questions, a great platform to learn more about Xactus and how it can support efficiencies and the consumer engagement, which is very key. So I'm going to jump in with the first question. Are you ready, Sasha?
Let's do it.
All right. So, Xactus has been at the forefront of modernizing verification in mortgage with platforms like Xactus 360. Can you share with us how the verification landscape has evolved over the last few years, which is huge, and what key challenges lenders face today that Xactus is uniquely positioned to solve?
Yeah, it is a great and very layered question. So we'll unpack it little by little. I would say the landscape itself, our president, Shelley, makes lots of jokes about when she first came to Xactus about 5 or 6 years ago now. This was the first time she had really seen innovation in this space before paper, which is really sad, but also really exciting because it was such a beautiful opportunity to innovate in an area that had lacked innovation for so long, right? Things had kind of been the way it was for as long as it had been, and it really needed to be reinvented. And so, just like everything else that we're seeing so much digitization and automation and ultimately AI coming into play, it was an opportunity to take a platform, Xactus 360, and really start to create more digital assets rather than having a more paper driven process that's obviously very static, a lot of heavy load on processors and underwriters to do all those various manual checks. And so, just the change alone in verification, regardless of what platform you're using, I think most lenders would attest to. We've moved heavily out of paper space and really come forward into the technology era that we are in. As far as the landscape has changed market wise, I think it's really interesting that I think nearly or just over 40% of workers in the US are earning an income either in totality outside of a traditional job. So they're self employed, contractor, otherwise, or they have a second job or a side hustle. And so employment and income has started to become more complex and therefore takes more time and effort to make sure that you're verifying accurately in that space. And so there's a significant change in the borrowers that we're seeing out there as far as where their income is and employment are coming from and how to make sure that we're helping lenders stay ahead of that and be able to accurately look at, assess so that they can verify the right data, right time. And that brings me to my last point that I would say is there's a lot of data consumption that happens on the front end of verifying a loan. And as we all know, costs
Right.
continue to rise, and we can't always control those costs, but we can help lenders offset them, which is why I say right data, right time. And so, really having a platform like Xactus 360 and having the right partner like Xactus that will stand in the trenches and figure out where are the right opportunities within your particular origination shop to work through those workflows, figure out where and when you need to order the data so that you can reduce that consumption and therefore the cost that you either consume or pass on to the borrower.
What you talked about really resonates with me because it sounds like what we have the opportunity to explore is bringing efficiency and accuracy to the entire loan life cycle with a
Yep.
focus and concentration at top of funnel. Because when you get all of this information on the consumer end, if you have the ability to verify that information as soon as it's coming into your shop, your organization, then you're going to have a cleaner pipeline. And then you're also
Absolutely.
going to be able to go back to the consumer and say, what's logical for a loan program? Because you're verifying this
Right.
income and you can say, I'm not guessing that debt to income ratio. I'm spot
Yeah.
on.
Right.
Here's your income. You've got the debt. This is where we are in the program.
Right.
Um, I saw a really interesting statistic, Sasha. It was from August, I believe. I saw it in August, and it was a statistic that Fannie Mae put out, and then the MBA came right behind it. And it said 25% of the loans fall out from pipeline to um, underwriting based on incorrect income information that's given at top of funnel.
Yeah. That's not surprising to me. It's unfortunate, but it's not surprising to me.
So your solution would, right. So your solution would support in solving that,
Yeah. We also, and
which
it's lender to
25%, that's
lender.
huge, right?
It is huge. And lender to lender fallout rate in general from application to close varies. And there are definitely plenty of lenders out there that do see very high fallout rate. And so, not to say
Right.
speed is always the solution, but where we can increase speed and increase making sure you have the right data so that you can go back and have a more effective, efficient experience with the borrower. Hopefully, you can stay focused on the relationship,
Yeah.
which is what lenders do best, and then move them through the pipeline in a better manner. And ultimately, to your point, get them in the right loan program.
Yeah, speed and accuracy. I love it. So,
Yeah.
one of onto my next question, next topic of
Yeah.
conversation. One of the significant initiatives in doing more research on
Hmm.
Xactus has
Hmm.
introduced this concept of intelligence verification to automate and streamline verification workflows.
Hmm.
Can you explain what intelligent verification means in practice, and really how it supports the lender and the work that they do with the consumer?
Yeah. So we actually introduced the category intelligent verification last year because again, we felt like there was a need for innovation in this space. And really, it means exactly what it sounds like. How do we manage verifications in a more intelligent manner, almost like work smarter, not harder, right? And so, as we continue to see
Right.
automation in the space, another area with Xactus, in particular with our platform Xactus 360, is what else can we do to help make that verification process more streamlined, more consolidated, easier for the lender? And oftentimes we work with lenders who may not know us outside of the credit VOEI space. They don't know that we have flood. They don't know that we have fraud offerings, other identity, property, et cetera. And so it's nice to have that more holistic conversation and help people understand there are certain parts of verification that just kind of go neatly hand in hand, and it can really help eliminate the overhead on vendor management and ensure that you have the right partner when it comes to verification in particular. Now, of course, ultimately, we want to have it become more intelligent. And so, just like you and I, as we continue to go through our life and have experiences and gain knowledge, we become more intelligent, one would hope. So, the more data that we feed
Right.
Xactus
You're supposed
360,
to.
our platform, the more intelligent it can become, particularly as we start to leverage AI and machine learning, which is really where it starts to teach itself, as it uses that data. And so that's why we chose that naming convention, and that's what it means. I will say, even with that in place, I think we'd all be lying to ourselves if we said that there still isn't a level of consultative approach that needs to be taken because mortgage is not a one size fits all and no lender is a one size fits all. And so combining that intelligence of the technology with the intelligence of our domain experts to again sit down, understand your business model, where you particularly have pain points, what systems you have, what workflow makes the most sense so that you can get the best experience possible, not just for you as a lender, but also for your borrower, is where that magic really comes into play.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, just the efficient speed and accuracy,
Yeah.
is what I've been hearing, which is, resonates with the consumer's needs. Let's dive in real quick as we're rounding out the corner of wrapping up our time together. Talk to us about the strategic partnerships that you've brought in, because there's been a couple that have really supported, bringing more to the table with Xactus offering Plaid and FICO, to name a few. How are they? How do these partnerships and integrations enhance the lender's workflow, and what is it bringing to the lender?
Absolutely. So I mentioned earlier that verification in particular is an area that we really double down on. I also don't believe that there's any one provider out there that should be providing every service and every product in mortgage, right? It's just too much to consider. And so being really good at what we do
Right, right.
matters, but then partnering with others that do really well at what they're experts at matters, and bringing it together in an agnostic manner so that a lender can choose which vendors do they want to partner with, which platforms do they want to integrate with, has always been a part of our ethos to again provide optionality, flexibility. And so we have continued to focus on let's do what we do best and keep getting better, but let's keep adding more value into the system. And that doesn't always mean building out the technology. It means partnering with people like FICO and Plaid, to name a few, like you mentioned. FICO Mortgage Score Simulator last year was a significant add to our offerings, and people have been leveraging it and loving it. And we
Yeah.
are excited to see more features and functionality come out this year to make it even more robust. And I remember going through my first experience of getting a mortgage and finding out that there were some things on my credit I didn't know about I needed to clean up in order to be better prepared. And so having that simulation available ahead of time kind of lessens that emotional blow because it's a little bit of a hit to your ego and you find out there's some stuff you need to manage through. And so that's been a great offering. Plaid, good gracious, it's a financial services household name. People know them very well and they've done incredible things. And so we couldn't be more excited to be partnering with them, not just with asset, but ultimately income as well, and maybe more to come that I can't quite speak to. And we're looking at other things we can do. I can't
Ooh,
get into
okay.
details, but we are working through acquisition of other things that can allow us to offer more in these different spaces. And so sometimes it's through partnerships with those that can bring that value to the table through connectivity. And other times it's areas where we're going to build or buy. But our focus again is agnostic. What do you need as a lender? We will go make it happen for you.
Oh, fantastic. So looking ahead into 2026, it
Yep.
sounds like there's some pretty exciting things on the horizon at Bactus for the lending institution,
There is. Yes.
right?
I'm very, very excited.
Nice,
And
nice.
some things that were released last year that we're starting to see really take hold, like our Xactus Mortgage Intent Index. You and I talked early on about if you could understand, a borrower ahead of time, the better experience you're going to have. And so, what about understanding intent to buy? People often pull credit before they do a full application. So, being able to have that insight ahead of
Right.
time allows you to get ahead of that relationship and help manage that experience. So, there are things that are already out there that I think we're continuing to add value into our ecosystem, and more to come this year that I'm very excited about that I think will just continue to enhance that experience again, lender and borrower alike.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Well, I know we'll be hearing more about it from you out in the conference circuit and on social media,
Absolutely.
as well as at MIC 26 and Western
Yeah.
Secondary. Sasha, thank you so much for joining us on Connect and being a part of the California MBA community, such a huge part of it. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Connect Podcast, the California MBA podcast. Be sure to subscribe, share, and hit the like button below. Until next time, stay inspired, stay grateful, and keep building with purpose.